Hear the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Luke. To what then will I compare the people of this generation? And what are they like? They're like children sitting in the marketplace and calling to one another, "We played the flute for you and you didn't dance. We wailed and you didn't weep." For John the Baptist has come eating no bread and drinking no wine, and you say he has a demon. The Son of Man has come eating and drinking, and you say, "Look, a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners." Nevertheless, wisdom is vindicated by all her children. This is the gospel of the Lord. Would you please be seated? I think I came to respect the collective wisdom of children even before I was ordained. And nothing that has happened since I was ordained has changed my mind about that. Now, individually, a child can be innocent, naive, even easily deceived, taken off in the wrong direction. But collectively, I think children build up the most amazing wisdom. I don't think you will find in any part of society a sense of justice quite as acute as you will find in a group of children who know each other well and work together successfully, like you find in classrooms at school. I don't think you'll find in any society or any part of society quite such a sense of fair play as you will find in the collective wisdom of children. Woe betide the teacher who treats one of the class unfairly. Children have an absolute relationship with truth. Children don't deal in half-truths. It's either true or it isn't true. Children have a most enormous sense of compassion for one another, and I think very often for animals. Children are inclusive. You will very rarely find that children even notice if a member of the class has got a different colour skin, or even their ability or their disability, or even the culture from which they become. I've seen the most wonderful relationships between children when all those poor little kids came over from the Ukraine. In other words, I think that collectively, children have the most profound wisdom. So forgive me, Lord, but I'm not very happy with the gospel today. Because Jesus starts with the idea that he's comparing the scribes and the Pharisees and the people that were all around him like children, almost as if he has a very low opinion of children. But actually, of course, that's to take it out of context, because by the end of that very short reading we have today, he talks about wisdom and he connects it to children. It's actually the scribes and the Pharisees and the other people in the marketplace who have the wrong idea about children. They had the wrong idea about all sorts of people. They had the wrong idea about ladies. They didn't rate ladies very highly at all. They couldn't own things. They had no real status within the community. They, in a sense, belonged to their husbands. I'm sure you're all quite happy about that. And they had this for children. Children had no status, no value at that stage. They had to go on before they could become adults and go through the period of preparation and the exercise of maturity by qualification, by religious practice and all the rest of it, before they had a status worthy of respect. So it isn't really Jesus who's lacking in respect for children. It's the people to whom he's talking. And he's using this against them in the way that they haven't understood that they're using it against themselves. And he's actually accusing them of being the very sort of children that they are imagining. They are the people who wail and lament when things don't go their own way. They are the people who claim to be worthy of respect and yet haven't done anything to earn that respect. And so when Jesus uses this idea of children in the marketplace, he's really inviting the people to have a jolly good look at themselves. And that isn't a bad thing for all of us occasionally, to have a jolly good look at ourselves and just make absolutely certain that we are not deceiving ourselves about the sort of things that we believe about ourselves or our status within the community or everything else. Let's get back to basics. And so let's go back to the children and to the basics that we can learn from them. I think they're inspiring. I think, and I do believe that this is underpinned in this gospel, that at the very end he talks about wisdom and connects it to children. And it's a gospel about the importance of social justice. Yes, it's very easy to build a kind of society where you have haves and have-nots and not to worry about it very much, but not in the Jesus society. In the Jesus society, social justice matters. Just because you have and somebody has not, that doesn't mean that you can be content and complacent where you are. Quite the reverse. In the Jesus world, you have to worry about that. And you have to work, because you have the ability to work, to make sure that we live in a society which is socially just. Another thing about children, which is to do with truths and half-truths. I mean, we deal in half-truths, children don't. And so another prompt from thinking about the way that the collective wisdom of children works is that we should be worried about the spirit of the law far more than the letter of the law. If we've got the spirit of the law in our hearts, we don't even have to learn. You don't have to learn the 10 Commandments. All you need to know that you should love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and your neighbor as yourself. You've got the lot. The spirit of the law, not the letter of the law. And what about being inclusive? What about being the sort of person where actually you don't recognize the color of someone's skin? You don't recognize their ability or their disability. You don't recognize the language they're speaking. All you see is this person who is a totally lovely creation of God. Somebody who in their way, when they spy, I know I keep saying this, but when the Down syndrome youngsters come in here, you get the best cuddles from a Down syndrome person of all. I know you're good at it, but you ain't half as good as a Down syndrome person. Why can't we see that in one another? Why can't we see this wonderful creation that God made and put in front of us? What about trust? It's only when you're grown up you learn to be cynical. You weren't cynical when you were a child. You had to learn that. What a stupid thing to learn. Why can't we actually be the sort of trusting people that God created us? What about the silly prides that we put around ourselves, often like a shell to protect ourselves? Well, children don't do that. If they hurt, and they let you know it. Well, can't we do that too? Or would that be to let ourselves down? I don't think so. Not if we do it in the right way. I'm not for a moment talking about whinging. I'm talking about hurting because you see something that shouldn't be happening. You should hurt. That's what Jesus did. He didn't come in the world to skate over the surface. He went into the depths of despair and hurt and pain and suffering, because that's where reality was. And he changed it because he did it. And so can we. So, very simply, when Jesus talks about the children playing in the marketplace, and he leads his audience on to talking about the wisdom of children, it might not be a bad thing for us to be childlike and to share a collective wisdom and to become the sort of people that Jesus is describing in the gospel today.